Coach Hugh Freeze and company have another dynamic class coming in this season. Who are the guys ready to make contributions right away? Let's talk about it.
This is the Weekend Tailgate. Brought to you by Golden's Cast Iron. C-Dub. Joe. Be Will. By G. You are now listening to
The Weekend Tailgate, brought to you by the good folks over at Golden's Cast Iron. Whether you work out, grill out, or chill out, you got a place to be able to spend your dollars. And make sure you do that with Golden's Cast Iron. Head over to goldenscastiron.com/WR. Use code Get Your Weight Up for 15% off of weights. Code TWR for $65 off of fire pits and Kamado grills. If you want to support the work that we have going on here at the War Report, please get your Green Name Gang active. Green Name Gang, folks, y'all know I am dropping that raw. I don't even want to start saying it like that. That sounds weird. Pause that entire thing. Green Name Gang, y'all know I'm giving y'all this film review out here. So y'all make sure you get your activity up on that so that we can have a great time talking about all of the players. We're going to talk about some of the players that we have coming in the portal. Won't do a lot on the freshmen, but we will definitely talk about the additions in the portal. And maybe if you aren't Green Name Gang, somebody will be generous and give you a membership here. So make sure that you tap in with all of the good folks down here. And if you're active and they decide they want to gift the membership, maybe we can get some given away today. You will get a free month of membership on them. And make sure you tap in with our folks over at the Rogue Shop. RogueShop.com is your place for America's #1 online dispensary. That's sleep, stress, pain, anxiety relief, all there for you at RogueShop.com. Make sure you tell them the folks at the War Report sent you over there. Let's get over into the conversation, and we will talk a little bit about everybody's favorite thing. It's a game we started last year, see? Mike G will be joining us here in just a minute. Game we started last year. Little game I like to call start, bench, or red shirt. Start, bench, or red shirt. I want to hear the predictions from you guys. Before we get into this year's thing, I thought it would be fun because we did this last year going into the end of spring. The reason why we're doing this right now is they just had move-in day. The entire class of 25 is present at Auburn now. All the guys have reported to campus.
Before you go any further,
okay,
I like that there's no suspense over whether or not this guy's going to be able to roll or not. Everyone is in, like that's a great thing. No one is going off to community college. I think that's good news.
For sure. So everybody is reported to campus now, so we know who the entire freshman class is going to be next year. If you guys are in here right now, go ahead and share this video before we get into that. But I thought it would be fun to take a look back at what we predicted last year for guys. Now, I don't have a graphic for this, but I am going to just call out the names here and what we said last year. And some of them we were dead on, and some of them we could not have been further off. Let's just talk about it. First and foremost, Cam Coleman. Everybody said he was going to be a starter. He obviously was a starter, right? So Cam Coleman, no suspense there.
That would have been devastating if we were wrong on him.
Yeah. The next one was Perry Thompson. Everybody said bench for Perry Thompson, meaning he was going to burn his red shirt, but he was not going to work his way into the starting rotation. We were all correct on Perry Thompson. Perry Thompson did, in fact, burn his red shirt. Here's the one that was interesting for me, right? Because everybody knows Mike G, huge fan of Malcolm Simmons. Thinks he's dynamic, was like, you got to get this guy in the game, When we talked about Malcolm Simmons, I was the only one of the three of us who said that he would be working his way onto the field and burn his red shirt. Malcolm Simmons, as we know, by the end of the year, was playing starter minutes. He definitely burned his red shirt. So Malcolm Simmons there. Everybody else had him at red shirts. for Malcolm Simmons. That one was interesting. Bryce Kane, everybody said redshirt. Walker White, everybody said redshirt. Edwin Favor, DeAndre Carter, everybody said redshirt on all those guys. All those guys did, in fact, redshirt from the offensive side. So not bad.
Let me speak on Malcolm Simmons for me. I would love for Mike to be able to speak on it himself.
I do want to hear Mike talk about this.
I want to hear Mike's thoughts. But for me, it's one of those things to where you hear how good this recruiting class is, but you don't really know just how well this coaching staff hit on certain players.
Right.
You couple that with the fact that Malcolm Simmons came in the summer, and for you to be a freshman coming in during the summer and work your way into playing, getting on the field, being in the 2 deep early on in the season, and then working your way into playing starter minutes, that doesn't happen often. If you're playing the odds, the safe bet is that Malcolm Simmons would redshirt, even though he may display a lot of talent in the offseason and in fall camp. He jumped that bar. He surpassed that bar, right?
Yeah.
And
I think, for him as well, not to cut you off, I apologize. Robert Lewis was the other guy that was supposed to be stepping up there in the slot. And Robert Lewis, though solid, never really turned into the kind of contributor or the playmaker that this offense needed. And so Malcolm Simmons got his opportunities and he went out there and he did his thing. Right. And so where I was confident in it when I went back and listened to the episode was I thought he would just get essentially what he got started off with was we just want to put him on the field in the gadget play or put him in there in, special teams or something like that and let him contribute. And that is how he worked his way onto the field initially. It's like, all right, we're going to sub package. We'll just throw him out there and just get the ball in his hands type of thing because he was such a dynamic athlete. And that is what led to him really burning his red shirt. But then when he did that more and more, they was like, we have to play this guy. And so he just kind of continued to be the guy that they went to, even supplanting Keontae Scott as the punt returner by the end of the season, right? And then eventually being able to supplant Robert Lewis as the slot receiver, getting most of the snaps there.
This kid, whenever there was an opportunity to get on the field, he took full advantage of it and did not blow his opportunity. And so the whole point of this show is to determine for this upcoming class who's going to be that guy who's going to take advantage of an opportunity. Someone may get injured, God forbid. Some guy may not play up to his potential this year.
Right.
That's going to open the door for some of these young guys to get on the field and be able to display and showcase what this coaching staff has seen months in advance when they were recruiting them.
For sure. So Mike G is here. We're talking about your guy, Malcolm Simmons, who you thought somehow, and I just knew like he was going to pivot off of it by the time we got through this conversation about him, that he was going to redshirt last year. In retrospect, of course, he became a starter by the end of the season. But just thoughts on that prediction last year on the red shirt of Malcolm Simmons.
Well, the crazy part is I hate to be that guy that's like I'm right or I'm wrong, but like
no, you're wrong.
he was based on what Coach Hugh Freeze said about him, right? Having trouble absorbing the system and getting in there, some of the things I anticipated. I don't know, like in such a what I thought would be a pivotal year for Coach Hugh Freeze, I didn't see him burn. I saw him getting some playing time, but maybe not burning that red shirt, save that talent. Tons of wide receiver talent. Obviously, we've talked about it ad nauseum on the show, but his talent just supersedes all that.
Right. And
I think that's the thing that's hard to predict.
For sure.
Predicting his talent superseding all of that stuff is actually crazy. I mean, look, man, I feel like him doing what he did last year is the universe making right what happened to Malcolm Johnson Jr. He was
okay.
I was ahead of my time, guys. I was ahead of my time.
Mike, tell me more.
Just a different Malcolm at wide receiver.
Yes. I knew there was a Malcolm that would be great. I predicted
the greatness of Malcolm. I just had the wrong last name.
Look, end of the day, obviously it underscores how talented this wide receiver room is and how much talent they have in there. Malcolm Johnson Jr., if you guys remember from my one-on-one with Hugh Freeze, talked about how he's made one of the biggest leaps this offseason in terms of understanding assignments, knowing the system, understanding what they want him to do. And I'm looking forward to seeing how it turns out on the field, because the dangerous part about a guy like him is when you have all that explosive talent and you are no longer in your head thinking through things, you're just out there reacting. You know, it's like Super Saiyan versus Ultra Instinct.
Okay.
Am I the only one still watch Dragon Ball? No. But you're just out there reacting. It's instinctual. And if he's playing instinctually, good luck for everybody else, man. Like,
if he's coming into his own, Mike, Malcolm Simmons, and you have either Perry Thompson, Horatio Fields, Cam Coleman, right?
Yep.
You have all these weapons on the receiver. How important, Ike, is it for the QB to be able to see the field with that much talent?
Yeah,
because
you can't
cover all of these guys.
You can't predetermine where you're going to go. You need to be able to go through your progressions because you've got options out there. It's not just, well, this is my guy, I'm going to go to him. It's like, well, these are my guys. Which one is the best option on this play? So he needs to be able to be that kind of guy. And it's good for him to have that kind of option.
That's why the chemistry that Jackson Arnold is developing with these receivers, opting to stay home over going to the Manning passing camp, I think is going to be so important, because if these guys are in sync, if they're in tune with each other, then
bye. I don't know. Was that in sync?
Yeah. That's right.
Well, you got it right.
If they're in sync, right? People are gonna have a lot of issues stopping them. You and I had this conversation just off camera one time about when the quarterback drops back and there's a safety over the top and there's a defender coming in from the right, and in the quarterback's mind, he wants the QB to just sit down in that spot. When the receiver can read it the same way the quarterback is, and we've gone through this 100 times in practice. I'm gonna sit down right here. He's gonna put the ball low and away, so nobody, it's me or nobody. And when those miscommunications happen, you get pick sixes. Guy keeps on running. He throws it to a spot. The DB's like, bam, he's going. I'm telling you, if Malcolm Simmons is that guy for Jackson Arnold, I think we did we do a segment on who his favorite receiver possibly would be? If not, then definitely something we should do. But I think that those slot guys have a chance to really blow up with Jackson Arnold. I really do. I believe whoever's playing the slot has a chance to really have a big season, because when he drops back there and he's looking for a quick outlet, and if he can get those throws down, man, I don't know at the volume that I'm expecting Hugh Freeze to throw the ball this season, and not that they're going to go away from the run. I just expect more plays per game this season. I'd like to see Auburn north of 70, averaging north of 70 plays this season. Then more opportunities for everybody, which means more opportunities for Malcolm Simmons. Young man, please don't make me have to make another video about you crossing the goal line and almost letting the ball go. Hopefully we got that out of the system.
I mean, didn't do it anymore last year, and he played a lot more after that game. So
yeah, I almost felt bad about my tweet because Hugh was like, "Yeah, we got him," and I think that. So if you talk about, we did a segment on Erick Singleton on the Auburn Express and how fast he is. They're saying he has like 4.2 speed, and I just keep it low 4.2 speed. I can't help but think that with all the talent around him, if the only way this blows up is if the line is just all time bad.
Yeah,
can't block.
He can't read defenses, right? So that's the only things that will screw it up is the offensive line and inability of the quarterback to process. So
we did a great segment on O-line, kind of breaking down time to throw and what is the average protection time of offensive lines in pass pro in this league. We talked about how bad historically some of some people's favorite SEC quarterbacks how bad their protection has been at times. And we use that to compare what Jackson Arnold is going to have to get the ball to guys like Malcolm Simmons. Guys, I'm telling you, if it's average, if he has a protection rate anywhere around 26%, it's over.
Yeah. Well, he's certainly he's certainly going to have his opportunities because
he doesn't throw interceptions.
He didn't have it. Well, sometimes he holds on to the ball a little bit too much, right? And so he's a little hesitant to make the decisions. But hopefully, again, this summer, that chemistry will allow him to make those decisions more quickly and trust that his receivers are going to be where they're supposed to be.
I was going to say that can happen when you don't trust a guy to be where he's supposed to be. So you can't throw with anticipation, and you're waiting to see it develop before you let go of the ball.
And I mean, the guys that you're throwing to probably weren't guys you've been working out with leading into the season. Like Oklahoma had a lot of injuries at the wide receiver position.
Yeah. So, I mean, no trust there. Like, I mean, it was a tough situation. They'll have a better situation this year when they open SEC play against Auburn in Norman. I regret we're gonna have to see that stupid wagon. But hopefully it turns over and everybody's okay. And hopefully Auburn does not turn over the ball when they get to Norman, because Jackson Arnold only 3 interceptions last year, well documented. Yeah. So Malcolm Simmons is going to be a big part of them moving things forward here. Never happier to be wrong about a guy than I am about Malcolm Simmons last year.
For sure. Well, let's talk about the guys that are on offense coming up this year. We'll get over into our predictions from last year on defense when we flip over to the defensive side. But let's talk about the ones that are coming in, true freshman offensive players. And right out the gate, let's go with the guy that everybody's been talking about this offseason, quarterback Deuce Knight. What are going to be our thoughts on Deuce Knight? Does he start? Does he come off the bench and burn that red shirt? Or is he going to keep that red shirt going? Whoever wants to kick this off.
I'll go. I'll go. Listen, Hugh Freeze has already said who's starting. It's Jackson Arnold. And sure. I think
listen, this is predictions for the end of the year. You think Jackson Arnold's going to stay there is the question.
Yes.
Okay.
Hugh Freeze needs to get this right. He needs to get the QB position right. I think Jackson Arnold needs to be the guy. And I think that while, yes, you can come up with an alternate reality where Deuce Knight becomes a starter at the end of the season.
Yeah.
But it again, we've talked about it. It means that something did not go as planned during the regular season. Now, it could be injury. God forbid. You don't want injuries to happen to your players.
Right.
But Hugh Freeze needs to atone for missing out on QB position since he's been here at Auburn. He has to get it right this time with Jackson Arnold being the guy. And all signs point to that Hugh Freeze may have gotten this one right. We've heard positive things from Jackson Arnold in the spring, but I think what has become a revelation of sorts and what turned out to be a very good situation was that you only had 2 scholarship QBs during spring, and you didn't hear anything about Deuce Knight struggling. You didn't hear that his head is swimming. You didn't hear anything like that. It's been positive remarks, so much so to where you had a contingent of Auburn fans worried that Hugh Freeze may have missed on Jackson Arnold because we're hearing so much about Deuce Knight. What it could potentially mean, what I'm hoping it means, is that Hugh Freeze was 2 for 2 in this offseason and getting QBs out of the portal or through high school. And it looks like it could be the latter. So I'm excited about Deuce Knight. I will say that he will be the guy that you bench, because I think the most interesting storyline is who's going to be QB2. Because you got another kid coming in from Stanford and now who's going to be vying for that number 2 spot. And I think Deuce Knight has made a strong push and a strong argument to be the number 2 QB. It'll be interesting to see how that plays out in fall camp.
So you got him as what?
I got him as bench. I'm going.
So you think he's going to burn his red shirt?
I think he's going to burn his red shirt.
Okay. All right. Mike G.
The future is now. The future is now. Let's go ahead and start getting this guy some reps at the end of games where he's getting out there, no pressure, and being able to learn and play at the speed of the game.
All right, Mike G. Deuce Knight, what you got?
This might be one of the toughest ones I think that we're going to do, because one, I expect Jackson Arnold to finish the season as the starter. Hard to predict how things are going to go, but it is my fervent and strong belief that Jackson Arnold is not only good enough, but is every bit of the 5-star talent he was coming out of high school. I think that your situation has a lot to do with how you progress. And as three guys who watched a much maligned Jason Campbell for 3-4 years until his senior year, where he got a guy in Al Borges who brought in the West Coast offense, let him sling it around a little bit more, focused on his strengths, really developed him as a quarterback. And he played himself from on nobody's board to first-round draft pick in one season. I believe that these guys I believe that the people who evaluated Jackson Arnold to be who he is did not miss. That being said, Deuce Knight is a generational talent. Okay. As Caesar said, I'm encouraged by the fact that they're saying he's picking things up really quickly this spring for all intents and purposes. From their perspective, he's making the jump that they wanted Walker to make his freshman year. And it just wasn't there. Every time we checked in, they were very, we love Walker, but, they were very dismissive of Walker White. They have not dismissed a thing about Deuce Knight. However, after talking to Hugh, and this is something that he said to me off camera, if they can preserve a whole year of eligibility for Deuce Knight the way that he's progressing, and with the long-term view that they have of what they're building on the Plains right now, I think they preserve the red shirt if it makes sense and if the situation dictates that they can.
Okay, so you're going red shirt.
Yes, Deuce will remain ready. I believe he may even, but look, man, he can go. He can suit up. He's got to touch the field in 5 games out of 12.
We're going to see him touch the field at some point.
Right, yeah, and we're definitely going to see him touch the field. However, it just depends a lot on how the season's going. If the passing game is stalling and they get where they were with Peyton Thorne and Hank Brown last year, red shirt's going.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah. I'm going to go red shirt with him as well, because I just want Jackson Arnold, the guy that they chose. I want him to be the guy.
I want it to be good.
Yeah.
So just not to cut you off, Ike. So if Jackson Arnold, because this is not something I'm not considering, if Jackson Arnold really does well, you can slide in the transfer QB. Like, what's the guy's name from Stanford?
Ashton Daniels.
Ashton Daniels. He can then be your number 2 because there's no pressure on him because you already got your QB1 who's playing lights out. Therefore, you don't have to waste eligibility on Deuce Knight just being a backup. He's still learning. He's okay. I can see that.
What you have to do if you're Hugh Freeze is you got to play Deuce Knight enough that he believes that he's the heir apparent. That's what you have to. They cannot afford for him to go to the bad place mentally where he doesn't see a path to playing time, and the next high-profile transfer is coming over him to take his spot.
Yeah, I think a lot of that's going to have to do with the offseason more so than during the season, because I think Deuce Knight's intelligent enough to figure out like why he wasn't playing if Jackson Arnold is playing well. Right now, if Jackson Arnold's struggling and Deuce Knight's not playing in that scenario, then you're going to have a lot of conversations about like why did I not get this opportunity?
Well, we'll have to answer the question during the season. How confident are they in Deuce Knight to step in case of poor play? Because what's going to happen is if Jackson Arnold is not playing well, which I do not anticipate, but if it does happen and you're Deuce Knight and they feel hesitant to pull the trigger to put you in and you feel like you've been killing it, that's where those seeds of doubt start.
Right. That's
how it starts. Well, we've talked to these QBs guys. That's how it starts every single year. It's our offense is stalling. The guy in front of me, I feel like is not doing better than me. Why not give me a shot?
Right.
So Ashton Daniels, I think, gets to campus this week. So
yes,
he understood what situation he was walking into. Hugh Freeze described him as a guy who has a lot of experience and has played a lot of football, and they think that he can contribute. He's going to have to pick some things up quickly in terms of system to get ready. But Deuce has got a jump start. And if you're Hugh Freeze, you just have to do this dance between Ashton and Deuce for this season and you're selling the Deuce, hey, this season is what you understood coming in that you probably were not going to start this season, that this year wouldn't be your year. Right. That's what he said. Everybody bought into that during recruitment and in portal season.
Right.
So there's no reason for me to believe that he's suddenly going to just be like, oh my God, I want to play now, unless he sees it all going to shit and he feels like he can help and they won't put him in there, which I don't see that scenario happening either. So this is hard for me because I think the circumstances are going to dictate whether he holds on to that red shirt. And it really just depends on whether Ashton Daniels can play well and stay healthy. I'm sorry. Jackson Arnold. If Jackson Arnold can play well and stay healthy, then Deuce preserves his red shirt, continues to develop, and he'll be the guy when time comes.
For sure.
Let me ask you guys this before we move on, because we got to get on to the other guys. But do you think that there's a scenario? Let's just say, because we talk about Auburn's second half of the schedule.
Mm-hmm.
And let's just say Auburn turns the corner and gets into gear to where Jackson Arnold may not be playing the whole game. And there's an opportunity for a Deuce Knight to get some experience.
Oh, man. Yeah.
Let's just say Auburn figures some stuff out offensively.
So
and the back half of the schedule,
in that scenario, yes, Deuce Knight would play more. I'm sorry. I just don't see Auburn getting it together that much. No, I ain't there yet. I ain't there.
Okay. All right. That's fair. Yeah. That's fair, but I'm saying if we're gonna play alternate universe or reality,
for sure,
right?
What if
what you're saying? What you're saying to make sure I understand, Caesar, is Auburn's blowing people out, and then at the end of the game, you have time to get a backup in. Do you go Deuce or do you go Ashton?
Auburn is a serious playoff contender.
Right. You go with the guy that you're gonna want to take over in
case Jackson Arnold gets hurt.
Correct. Yeah, and it'll be really interesting to see which direction they go there. I can't get off the fact that Deuce has a whole off-season head start on Jackson in terms of absorbing what they want to do and throwing to these receivers. I can't get off that. In that case, I do think the going. I know what they would prefer.
Right.
But I don't know. That's not a bad scenario either. Well, I don't know. See, because at the end of the day, how many Jackson Arnold will be draft eligible next year, right?
No, he's technically draft eligible. This is going to be his third season. Yeah, after the season removed from high school. So yes.
Yeah, I can't see him playing so well that he's like, "Peace, I'm out of here." Right. I do believe this will be a better quarterback class than the last one that just went into the NFL draft.
I can see him coming back even after having a good year.
Yeah, I think Jackson's got one more year in him, which is why if we're working under that assumption, look, if he Tahad Pettiford's it. And just comes in and just 1 year and then bam, he's gone and suddenly he's on everybody's draft board. Good for him. I think that's a good thing for Auburn in the long run to have guys who are developing and going to the league. God knows, especially after the draft results we just got. Auburn fans would love to see more of that. But boy, man, see, you sent me on a ride there mentally with that one. Like if they're blowing people out and it's the fourth quarter. And because remember, this was a thing with Hank, right? Remember when they put Walker in over Hank?
Yeah.
At the end of last season? Who was they?
Yeah, well, I mean, Walker had not had an opportunity to play at all at that point. They're just like, well, let me just see what he's got. And he still didn't burn his red shirt. So
but they
I think that's a
asked
slightly
him,
different scenario.
But they asked him, Ike, they asked Hank, hey, how you feel like that? We got this story. And Hank said, I feel like this is highly disrespectful. I feel disrespected.
Yeah. I mean, I don't think you're in that scenario this year because I don't think Ashton Daniels is going to feel disrespected by that. So, all right, we got to move on though. So, next up on here, I think so. Just want to make sure I have everybody correct. We got Mike and I. Redshirt C-Dub says bench, correct? All right. Next up, Alvin Henderson, which I think is going to be a little. I don't know.
This is a tough one here.
Yeah, this is a tough one as well. I'll let you start it off, Mike G. What's your feeling on young Alvin Henderson at the running back position? I think we can all agree Omar Mapson is going to be a redshirt guy. He's a preferred walk-on, but I have him on here as well. But anyway, continue. Alvin Henderson.
I think this is a bench. I think he burns his red shirt. I do. And this is just me seeing what they did with Jeremiah Cobb. They really like Alvin Henderson. I could see a scenario where he's actually needed. I'm worried about Damari's injury history.
He has been injured every season. Yes.
Yeah. I'm worried about his injury history. And we all know that running back is one of those positions where it's just a high attrition position because those guys take a beating trying to run between the tackles. And I hate, I'm not calling this, but you have to have multiple guys. So I think this is a bench. There's no way he starts. And I'm sure we can all agree on that. But
sure,
I think that this is a bench. I think he burns his red shirt. I think he plays a good amount this season. I can see him getting 300-400 yards on the ground this season.
Okay. See?
Is he this year's Malcolm Simmons? That's really what I'm curious about, because the reason why I struggle, Mike, with saying bench is you have Darrell Robinson out there. Now, he was injured during the spring, brought in from Connecticut. If Damari gets injured, how does Darrell Robinson factor into that? Because Darrell Robinson would be that back that you would need to run between the tackles and whatnot.
You talking about the guy from UConn?
Right. Yeah. Where does he factor in? And I think bringing an experienced guy into your running back room, Alvin has all the talent in the world. I struggle with kind of where Alvin is. I've heard good things from Alvin, and I do believe that he'll have an opportunity. I just don't know by the end of the year if especially seeing how they've utilized running backs. Now, again, you had Jarquez, and you had to make sure Jarquez gets his. It's a different room this year, so I don't know how they're going to really utilize multiple backs this year. I've yet to see it, which is why I'm leaning towards Redshirt.
If they do what I think they'll do based on the conversations that we've had about the methodology and the thinking of this staff, right? They really want to lean into their high school guys. And Hugh Freeze believed the portal is there for you to fill needs that couldn't be filled through high school recruiting.
He wanted a second back out of high school, and that's why Auburn got Darrell Robinson.
Right, yeah. So Alvin Henderson is the guy that they chose out of high school. They were on him early. They really liked him. He stuck with Auburn through the process, and I think that there's going to be a little bit of favoritism for the guys out of high school. They're going to play the best guy. Trust me. They're going to play the best guy. So before anybody goes on Twitter and starts saying, Mike G said that the portal doesn't matter, those guys don't have a shot. I just believe that this staff thinks, hey, if we're going to recruit hard and we're going to invest all this money in these kids out of high school, let's get them on the field as long as they're doing the things that they're supposed to be doing. And we don't have any other problems, and they're progressing. And from what I understand, all those things apply to Alvin Henderson. So that's why I think he benched and burned. But I think that your scenario is just as likely and valid as well too. It's going to depend a lot on these guys.
Yeah.
Here's the other thing. This is the year offensively that we may see Hugh Freeze do some things that we have not seen the first 2 years at all. Guys, there may be some surprises in this offense. I'm projecting that he's going to break a lot of his coaching tendencies that he's had from previous years. And that is predicated on the fact that they now believe that they have the guys to execute these things. That's what's held this offense back the first 2 years. They've not tried. Every week in front of the camera, we're shrinking the offense. We're shrinking the offense. I'm like, well, what are y'all doing off season? And come to find out, do a little bit more digging. They're going into the season. They kind of understood. We're not sure we got the quarterback to do what we want to do. I'm not sure we got, the offensive line to do what we want to do. So instead of getting in a scenario where we're trying to do a lot of things that are out of pocket for us, let's just stick in this zone. And every time they tried to expand the offense, it went wrong. So they went back to shrinking it down to the things that they felt that they could do well. Well, this year, it's a very different feeling. They feel like there's a lot of things that they can do well with the guys that they have.
Let me ask you this, Mike. Let me ask you, Mike. What's the ratio of pass to run that this coaching staff?
Oh, man. 55-45.
Okay.
55.
So she's still close to 50-50.
He runs the ball.
Okay.
The problem that I've had is how much he runs it with his quarterback.
Jackson Arnold's going to run.
Yeah,
he's going to run.
That number go down, but he's working with better quarterbacks here than he's ever had anywhere else in his career, and I think that's a fact as well too. So that will influence how much. Yeah, because Jackson Arnold doesn't want to be out. He wants to sling it. He doesn't want to be. He's got great athletic ability, but he's not, at the next level, he's not going to be a runner, right? He needs to show off his arm, and he needs to sit in the pocket and deliver the football. And quite honestly, with these wide receivers, and that would be disappointing to see an offense run that way. Now, if you want to deflate this wide receiver room, let the quarterback get 150 carries this season. You better be running 80, 90 plays a game. Right? If it's just that explosive of an offense, I get it. But man, I don't. He'd have to be Cam Newton levels of effective running the football for me to accept a run pass ratio much higher than 55.
Yeah, and I don't even think the number of plays is really what's going to determine the run pass ratio. Maybe the rush attempts, but it needs to be 60, 40, 55. Something like that, right? Like, I just think you have to be 55, 45 in order to get into the kind of balance that Coach Hugh Freeze almost wants to force. Here's what's going to be interesting to me. So everybody is very famously talking about what happened in the Kentucky game last year, where after the game, he was like, I was wanting to throw the ball there because it was like we hadn't thrown it in a while. And he was fighting his urge to throw it for the sake of balance. Right. And he just kept running it because it was being successful. Will he have that same compulsion this year if the pass game is working really well and the run game is not being effective? Is he going to be like, well, we ain't run it in a while, let's just go ahead and turn around and hand the ball off here just to keep the defense honest? Or is he going to be like, man, we're killing them on the outside, let's just keep dinking and dunking it? Jackson Arnold's feel it. Like, is he going to have that same compulsion this season if it is in the reverse? I'm going to be interested in that.
What you're talking about is Hugh Freeze's feel for what is his feel for play calling going to be this year, right? If it's working, will he run the same play 2-3 times in a row? And just if the run game is working, and how do they do that? I just know that he will run the ball, but at the Power 4 level, he's never had a 1,000-yard back until Jarquez Hunter. So. There is, and still, Jarquez only had 187 carries.
Yeah,
they've got to get the star running back has to get a number. If they're effective, if they're averaging more than 5 yards a carry, we need Damari, assuming it's him, to have somewhere in the area of about 230 to 270 carries. I mean, it's you look at the numbers.
If you give him that, then what happens to Alvin?
Yeah, I've got Alvin Henderson as redshirting this year. I think that he is more of a scat back, and I think you've got that in Jeremiah Cobb. He's not going to be a between the runner tackles guy, and if Damari is going to be off of the field, I think that you're going to be bringing in Darrell Robinson to do that. So I think he has a little bit, unless there's an injury. I think that he's got a little bit in front of him to be able to get out there on the field and burn that red shirt. I don't know that he's got that much, because you have such dynamic wide receivers that can do so many things. Like, I've talked about the fact that I do believe that, they could go into a zero package this year, no running backs on the field, and then bring a Malcolm Simmons or Erick Singleton Jr. and line them up in the backfield as a running back, just to show that as a look out there. And you have 5 receivers out there. I think that that's a possibility this season. And so because you have wide receivers that can do so much stuff, like, you will want to bring them in speed sweeps, right? You're going to want to bring them on reverses and stuff like that. And you do have a quarterback that can run. I think that limits the opportunities for running backs in this offense this season. And for that reason, I've got Alvin Henderson having a red shirt. So, all right, we got to get to a break here. We got a lot more offensive players here to run down. If you're in here watching this, make sure that you are sharing the live. Go ahead and hit the thumbs up on the video, and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. We will be back. We're going to talk more Start Bench Redshirt offensive edition here with this 2025 class. You are watching the Weekend Tailgate. This edition of the War Report is brought to you by our generous sponsors. The Opelika Rage Room in Opelika, Alabama. The Rage Room is a place where anger and stress find their ultimate release. Call or text 334-777-6688 to set up a session today, or check them out online at opelikaRageRoom.com. Golden's Cast Iron. Whether you work out, grill out, or chill out, you deserve the best life possible, and Golden's Cast Iron is here to provide the tools to help you do it. Check them out at goldenscastiron.com.
Want to thank our title sponsor, Golden's Cast Iron, for sponsoring this segment. Golden's Cast Iron. Visit them at goldenscastiron.com/WR. Use code Get Your Weight Up for 15% off your weights and code TWR for $65 off fire pits and Kamado grills. Golden's Cast Iron. Spring is here. Summer is on the way. You want to be outside with your family. Work out, grill out, chill out with Golden's Cast Iron. Guys, join our patron community. Media Days is on the way. We're starting to get excited. Soon they will announce who is going to Media Days. We know Hugh Freeze will be there. Who will he take with him? I think Jackson Arnold definitely goes. Ike and I agree. Probably an offensive lineman. Would love to see young Connor Lew out there. Either way, you want to lock in with us. We got lots of great content. We lock in with Commissioner Greg Sankey every single year to get an update on what he's thinking about his league. So join as a patron member, help support the work that we're doing. You can give the gift of the War Report by hitting that gifted membership button. Let's see if we can give 20 away before the end of today's show. I want to thank our friends at the Rogue Shop. Visit rogueshop.com. Use code REPORT to get 15% off your Rogue Shop order. Pain, sleep, stress, anxiety, whatever else you in life, the Rogue Shop has something that has you covered. I got Richard dropping a little something in there for everybody who uses code REPORT, so please go visit them. And our friends at the Vibe Vault. Visit Vibe Vault at 3462 Crossrunds Road, Suite I in Phoenix City, Alabama. That's on Highway 431, right across the street from Chattahoochee Valley Community College, next to Renfro Supermarket and Marco's Pizza. Not just barbers, lifestyle consultants. The Vibe Vault, helping you keep fresh for the weekend. Check us out on podcasts, guys. Every single podcast platform. We are there bringing you guys lots of great audio-only content. The Auburn Express Uptempo College Loop and Just a Sec pods, as well as the War Report Gaming channel, bring you guys a little something different. So whether you're on your way to work, dropping the kids off at school, on your way to the gym, we got you covered with all your favorite Auburn content in audio-only format. Make sure you subscribe on Apple, Spotify, Amazon, iHeartRadio, Overcast. There's some things I never heard of, but we are there. So if you've heard of it, go over there and give us a shout.
Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. Let's get back over here into the conversation. Start bench redshirt. We are talking about the offense. We have, I hit the wrong graphic. That's the defensive one. Sorry about that. Offensive side of this, we have talked about Deuce Knight, Alvin Henderson, Omar Mabson, all likely to redshirt / maybe burn the red shirt, but not start there. We don't have any starters yet from this group. I'm going to go over here into the chat and see what they're talking about over here. Marion Thomas jumped in as if you think about it, Malcolm was more productive than Cam until late in the season. Thoughts?
I would argue he had more opportunities until late in the season.
He was definitely more productive, but yeah, Cam wasn't getting the ball for real.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then, Cam had the injury earlier in the season to the shoulder that limited his ability to get out there and do his thing. So definitely some contributing factors to that. Ant Robinson says only one will start, and he's talking about defense. Fagans, we'll get over into the defense at another time. Let's see here. Our guy War Eagle says 50 months, my guys. War Damn Eagle, keep bringing the fire. We will do our best. Appreciate you very much, JC, for being in here with us today.
Thanks for being day one.
Ant Robinson, everyone but Deuce and Ghea will redshirt, or G. Is it G or G? I always say this wrong. It's Ryan G, right? Ghea. It's Ghea. I don't know. Forgive me, Ryan, for mispronouncing your name.
Just gonna call you Ryan.
But he says everybody except for those two will redshirt. So thinks that Deuce is going to get his opportunity to burn that red shirt, and Ryan will as well. Let's see here. Brad Browning says DA doesn't have near the problems as people thinks he does. He had fumbles at inopportune times, but he doesn't have a quote unquote problem. Does not have a fumbling issue, says Brad Browning, but he has fumbled. So, I mean, I do think that the timing of the fumbles have been amplify, right?
Bet.
When you're when you're losing games, right? Every mistake that happens becomes amplified, right? So I will say that he does fumble the ball a little bit too much for my liking, right? And even though it's not an inordinate amount, it's too much, right? Like it's more than once or twice a year. But like he was concussed on one of them that he had a fumble when he was in that Cal game.
I don't hold that one against him.
Yeah, the one that was out there in the freaking monsoon that he had versus New Mexico State. Or was it New Mexico, not New Mexico State, against New Mexico last year? Like, I almost was like, somebody's about to cough this ball. It was raining so hard in that game. I was like, I just don't know how you have good ball security during this. And he ended up fumbling there. The one against Arkansas was bad, though. Like, there's just no two ways about it. Like, that was a terrible one in a game where, I mean, in a situation where he was going to score. Like, he was on his way into the end zone and he fumbled the ball. So that one was definitely bad. But yeah, I have to agree with you. I do think that people are a little too into him being having a fumbling issue thing. But hey, listen, there's one really good way to cure that from out of people's minds. Hold on to the ball.
Yeah, I will say this about Damari. Like once he's the guy, there's something about these guys when their playing time is somewhat limited. When they get in the field, sometimes they just try to do too much and they don't protect the football the way that they should. When he's the guy, I think that'll go away mentally for him. Yeah. I really do believe that. I think, once he's carrying the ball, he's out there on first and second down most of the time, you're going to see him secure the football rather than trying to make his mark. Like sometimes you're
pressing a little bit too much because you're not getting opportunity, so you feel like you got to do so much when you do get the chance.
Yeah. I think it goes away when and I know that's kind of anecdotal, but like I do believe that about Damari. He's got all the talent. He understands he's got to protect the football because nothing will get you to the bench faster than fumbling.
Absolutely.
Yeah, especially when you do have talented running backs behind you and you have not established yourself as the guy, right? Like, I think he is being penciled in as the guy because he has the most experience and he's waited his turn. He's been super loyal to the program, all of that stuff. But yeah, if he goes out there and he's coughing up the football, they're going to turn and say, this is why we brought in Darrell Robinson. Hey, we have not had an opportunity to let Jeremiah Cobb shine. Let's bring him out there. And then that's where you get into a situation where you can see a guy like Alvin Henderson getting his opportunity to play.
Yeah.
All right, let's get back over in here and talk some more about guys that are out here. It's going over to the tight end room. I don't know that we're going to get a chance to get to the defensive guys today. We might have to save that one for the next live or next Sunday. But let's talk about Hollis, Davidson, and Ryan Ghea, Ghea, whichever one is the correct pronunciation. Somebody's going to get me right in the chat, and I'm going to mispronounce it again because my brain has all of those pronunciations floating around, and until I hear it correctly enough times, it's not going to be there. So apologies again. But Hollis and Ryan, tight ends there. Are either of these guys burning their red shirts? We got to think about what the tight end room looks like right now. Let's just take a look at that. There are there's a lot of tight ends on the roster. You got Brandon Frazier and Preston Howard, who came over from Maryland, right? Tate Johnson is technically listed as a tight end right now. I think that's more of like they're going to be doing, H-back type of stuff. I don't think Tate Johnson's going to be he's going to be asked to go out there and be a blocking tight end. I don't think they're going to ask him to go out there and run routes. But Tate Johnson is in the tight end room currently. And the rest of them that you have out there are walk-ons, Owsley and Morton, and then Etheridge are your other tight ends. So we know Brandon Frazier is likely going to be the guy. Will one of these other two freshmen get an opportunity to play in an offensive year where we assume there are going to be more wide receivers playing on the field at the same time?
Yeah, I'm going to go with redshirt for both of these guys.
Okay.
And I know this happens every year, but I do honestly believe this year with how they're projecting to play offense this year, we're going to see a lot less 12 personnel, a lot more 11 personnel, and a lot more 10 personnel. Now, if you don't know what those things are, in 12 personnel, you've got two tight ends on the field. In 11 personnel, you got 1, and in 10, you got 0 tight ends on the field. Hugh Freeze admitted that they have not done, and we've seen it, they've not done or really attempted to do much 10 personnel since he's been here. But this is a transformative year, and I mentioned earlier that I do think that we'll see him try some things that we have not seen the last couple years, and some things that he has not really done his previous years coaching at other stops. The talent here is unprecedented for Hugh Freeze. So that meaning I think we go away from 12. I think we see a lot less 12 personnel. And, these guys are going to play. It's going to be because they're good blockers. Because if they do go into 12 personnel, probably running the ball. I'm almost shocked at how little we're hearing about tight end this offseason.
I'm not shocked about it just because, again, I don't know that it's going to be a featured portion of the offense, and there's so many talented receivers out there. Again, I think the tight end was a bigger portion last year and the year before because of the lack of trust in the wide receiver room to be where they needed to be, and the lack of what they consider to be can't miss talented guys, right? Like you just didn't have enough Malcolm Simmons guys on that in that wide receiver room where they felt like, well, he doesn't know where he needs to be, but by God, just put him out there and let's figure out a way to give them. There weren't enough of that, right? This year you got enough of those guys where maybe you don't feel like you don't, and there isn't a Rivaldo Fairweather at this present time in the tight end room where you feel like you can have him as a receiving threat, and then you're going to have the other tight end out there as a primary blocker because, let's just be honest about it. Fairweather was not great at blocking, right? So put him in there as a receiving threat. So I don't think it's necessarily unexpected that I haven't heard a lot, but it's going to be interesting. It is interesting also that they had a tight end in this room that came in last year in the transfer portal from Maryland, who's already exited back out of the transfer portal. I think that tells you a lot about a couple of things. Either the talent that you've got with the young guys behind them that have already supplanted him, or how little they're actually using the tight ends in the offense this year, where he's like, well, if they're only going to play one guy, maybe none on the field, I'm never going to get a shot to play. I'm not going to play in front of Brandon Frazier.
Right.
Not and maybe not even in front of Preston Howard, who just got here. I was running away from him. I don't want to make it sound like he was running away from somebody. Excuse me. My apologies, Rico Walker. That is disrespectful to you and what you're trying to get accomplished in your career. But maybe he was like, man, Preston Howard was already in front of me in this other room. He came over here. Now he's in front of me here. I'm out of here. Like, I don't know. But start bench red shirt, though, for the 2 tight ends. C, what you feeling? And the chat says it's Ghea, Ryan Ghea, like the karate gi.
Okay.
Ghea.
I am definitely redshirting Hollis Davidson.
Okay. Hollis, definite red shirts.
And I'm thinking you may bench Ryan Ghea just simply because when you get into short yardage situations, heavy personnel, you're going to include more tight ends, more guys up front. That's going to create opportunities for Ryan Ghea, who's actually one of your bigger tight ends anyway on this roster to get in there and play. I think there will be opportunities for him to actually see the field and get in on those situations. So I'm going to go bench for him.
Yeah, I think I am going to actually follow that same line of thinking and go bench on Ryan Ghea because he is more of the blocking type. I think that Hollis Davidson is a supreme kind of athlete. I just think that the other 2 guys that he would have to fight with for snaps are further ahead of him in experience and maybe a little bit of trust right now. So unless the kind of athleticism that he has makes it where it's like, yo, we got to play this guy, which I don't know that you have that in this offense from a tight end, then, he's going to be redshirted. So I think I'm going to follow and say red shirt on Davidson, bench on Ghea. Let's see. Next, we have offensive line guys. We got a couple of them here. Ty Buster, Broderick Schull, Jacobe Ward, Kail Ellis. What are we feeling about those guys on the offensive line? I'll tell you off the top, I think all of these guys are going to get a red shirt. I just think that you've got too many guys.
I don't
that
see
are
it. I don't
solidified
see
as a starter. You know, Connor Lew. Again, we're not predicting injuries here, right? Because I think you're going to have some rotation in because of injuries. Connor Lew's going to be the guy unless he gets hurt.
Yeah, it's hard. It's hard when you take injuries out of it because it feels like every year there's some kind of shuffle on the offensive line accounting for an injury. So is Auburn in a place where there's a natural succession at offensive line where they feel like the natural backup at left tackle is good enough to just step in at left tackle rather than, you know, trying to move a guy from guard to tackle and doing all that crap that we've seen in years past. I'm with Ike. I'm going red shirt on all these guys. I just think the offensive line with the guys they brought in through the portal is in a pretty good spot.
Yeah.
And the guys, as far as I know, that are coming in through the portal don't have a history of injuries. So I expect them to stay healthy this season. And I think that the one place where they have to improve is pass protection. Now, remember, offensive line isn't like other positions. If there's any spot on the field where they are not rotating guys in or out, it's offensive line. Right. Whatever line literally the only reason I think you pull your offensive lineman out of the game is injury.
Right.
Very rarely are you pulling them out of the game just trying to get fresh legs in there. That doesn't really happen. So I'm looking at all these guys to redshirt. And in the offseason, next offseason, we'll see if anybody rises to the top to maybe take one of those starting spots. But man.
They've done a good job of, and I think it's great to see that we can say that about all of our incoming freshmen having to just redshirting and not having to rely on them to be in the 2 deep because you lack depth, right? And I think that's a testament to what this coaching staff has done in terms of filling needs along the offensive line, especially at tackle, right? And so I like that you can bring in these guys and you did that for the most part last year with those guys. So you have some depth at the offensive line. Who's going to rise to the top and really begin to fill in needs year after year, right? So I think between high school and the portal, Hugh Freeze has his guys already. And again, bringing back guys from prior years, that continuity along the offensive line. There's not a lot of shuffling and new blood on that line. So, yes, I think that gives you the luxury of having a red shirt, these guys.
Yeah, I'm going to agree that red shirt for all of the guys on the offensive line. I just don't know that, again, absent of injury. And even at the tackle position, I think you've got enough guys that you trust to be able to be in the 2 deep there. So I think you'll have to get into a 3 deep situation before you get to a tackle. And definitely that for some of the other positions that are out there as well on the interior offensive line. All right. This one I think is going to be a little more nuanced to conversation, but wide receiver, Sam Turner, Duke Smith, and Erick Smith. Which of these guys start, bench, or red shirts?
I'm going red shirt on all of these as well, too. Yeah, I know there was a big Sam Turner this, Sam Turner that in the offseason.
Mike G does not like dudes named Sam playing wide receiver for Auburn and the hype they get during the offseason. That is clear.
Yeah, but I just don't. I think they
Malcolm over Sam any day of the week for Mike G.
Yeah, you tell me who is he playing over in the 2 deep as it stands right now. Here's the reality, I think, of NIL. Is that fans were really trying to push hard the last couple of years. When you play the best guy, you play the best guy. Now that there are these huge financial commitments behind guys, I think that it makes it a little bit tougher to come from the back of the pack and jump the guys in front of you with the 6-figure NIL deal if you don't have one. Yeah. And he's got to clearly be better. You're not. If you're Hugh Freeze, the problem is you have, and this is something that was part of the conversation when Peyton was here, was they paid hundreds of thousands of dollars to get Peyton Thorne here. And the people giving that money want to see the guy they paid for play. And if you come back to me and you say, now I need $1 million for this really, really good QB, it's like, oh, wait. We just give you $400,000 or $500,000 for this dude. And he's performing poorly. So I think Mr. Sam Turner has a lot to overcome. It's not to say that's not an indictment on his talent, though.
Yeah, I mean, listen, all these guys are talented.
All these guys are he's talented.
If you hear somebody say that this person is going to redshirt and you think that means that you don't feel like they're talented, then you're listening wrong. So
yeah, it's not what we're saying here. But do I feel like he's talented enough to jump all the guys who they have to right now? They have a really good problem at wide receiver with a bunch of talent, and it's going to necessitate some change in the formations that they put out there and their tendencies in play calling just to get all these guys the ball. There's a shift happening where Auburn is moving away from tight end toward all this dynamic wide receiver talent that they brought in. It's going to be really hard to crack the rotation. It's, you got Horatio Fields, you got Erick Singleton, who is a guy who can just kind of move around. And, 4.2 speed, man. Him and Malcolm. You got Perry Thompson, who you got to try to keep here. You got Cam Coleman. Tell me where this guy's playing. And these guys are young, so taking snaps away from these other dudes, I don't know. Like I said, I think it's going to be a difficult situation for him trying to get a single snap this year that's not in like total blowout time against Ball State or South Alabama or Mercer.
I think injuries would all but get one of these guys onto the field. Our wide receiver room did get hit with injuries last year. Even the year before that, you had guys dealing with injuries. So I think in a perfect world, you do see these guys redshirt. I think that the person who has the best chance of getting into playing, seeing the field, is Sam Turner, just based on what we've heard about him. I think by the end of the year, though, I think Sam Turner probably will have burned his red shirt. And I think it's probably just due to unlikelihood that someone's injured and not able to play as much. I think he'll be one of the next guys up.
Yeah, I'm going to go bench on Sam Turner, red shirt on the other two. The other two have just got to campus literally like yesterday. And I just don't know, even though I don't know that either of them is going to leap into that Malcolm Simmons stratosphere of they're just so talented that they can't keep them off of the field to the point that these other guys aren't so talented. Like, again, I'll use the same thing that you just said about who are you going to take off of the field to get one of the Smith brothers on the field? I just think that there's just too much between the inexperience / not being here in the spring and the talent that's in front of them. I don't know that either the Smith brothers see the field.
I'm rooting for Bryce Cain. Like, I think Bryce Cain's time is now to really take control of like one of those slot positions. And so to me, that's why as talented as the Smith brothers are, I'm rooting for Cain to really take that leap.
Yeah, does Turner project the slot? Like,
no, he's going to be outside guy.
Outside?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I just, like I said,
I just don't see him beating out Sam then.
Sam Turner is 6'1", 200 pounds. He's definitely an outside guy.
Yeah, I already have questions about how much Perry is going to play and how they're going to rotate him in. So if you're Perry Thompson and Sam Turner is taking snaps from you on the outside in any situation other than I'm the starter and he's coming in garbage time, Huber's going to have a problem on his hands. That's just me. That's how I feel, right? Like, Perry was patient this first year. He came back. He stayed loyal to Auburn. I appreciate his loyalty. I'm just saying, if he projects at the outside, the next dude up, not named Cam Coleman or Erick Singleton, to me, is Perry Thompson. And right now, I don't know that you're going to have so many snaps available that he's going to be, if everybody, assuming everybody stays healthy, that you're going to be able to find time for him to burn a red shirt.
And I agree with that. I'm just saying, Mike, I think someone gets injured. I just think with you, if you're going to be playing 3 to 4 receivers, that's more opportunity for someone to have a nagging injury to where they're not playing. And that gives a guy an opportunity to see the field. Is what I'm saying.
Yeah. In that situation, any other position, I would agree with you. At wide receiver, I think even if there's an injury, it's still so loaded in front of him that I don't see it this year.
Gotcha.
Right? Like, I just think if you go heavy on Perry Thompson based on what happened last year. There's one injury. So if there are multiple injuries, then we're having a different conversation. One guy gets injured on the outside. It is the Perry Thompson show. As it should be, too, because he's earned it. Like, I'm telling you, he's earned the benefit of the doubt. He looked incredible, guys. I know it wasn't televised for you guys, but I was there, and I watched him. He made every single type of catch you could expect. He caught fades. He went to the ground. He caught him. He tiptoed on the sideline, back of the end zone, corner of the end zone, over the middle. Perry Thompson was an absolute beast all over the place. And it's crazy to think that they have a guy in there that talented. And he was catching them from Deuce, by the way, because Jackson Arnold didn't play. Man, woo, boy, this is such a different conversation. Do you remember back when, what was the kid, the former 5-star that transferred in from Georgia, Demetrius Robertson, when Demetrius Robertson was here? Oh, yeah. And fans were like, our receivers couldn't catch a cold, and they were blaming them for everything from Pearl Harbor to coronavirus, right? Like, our receivers were responsible for everything bad that was happening in the world. Well, I think those guys were a little better than they got credit for. They weren't a perfect group. But this receiver group, the narrative around them, like, think about it. Remember when Heather Dinich came and she was like, I think Auburn fans are going to have a little patience with their wide receivers. She got cooked by Auburn fans, and then it happened how it happened. And as it turns out, she was right about a lot of things last season. I'm just taken back by the conversation that we're having around wide receiver right now, because if you can believe Hugh Freeze on anything, you believe him when he talks about what type of talent that he wants to bring in and what they're going to go after, because that's exactly what they've done. And they've been highly successful at it. They've been so successful at it. It's to the detriment of guys like Sam Turner, in my opinion. So I do not feel about Sam Turner like I felt about Sam Jackson, though. I don't. I think Sam Turner is extremely talented, and I hope he gets a shot, if not at Auburn, somewhere. And maybe that's his story if he ends up hitting the portal is, look, look at the guys in front of me. There was just dogs. Because once you develop a reputation as a program for recruiting a certain position at a high level, other programs look at that and be like, hey, man, the third guy in their room could start here. That's how well they recruit wide receiver.
Yeah, that was 80% of the hype around Caleb Burton when he came to Auburn. It's like, he's a bench player at Ohio State. Look at all of the great wide receivers they have there. He's got to be amazing.
And what was the guy that came over from LSU? I could do
Coy Moore.
Coy Moore, yeah, right. Like, I mean, I don't think anybody would argue LSU has been recruiting wide receivers at a very, very high level.
Yep.
So it wasn't a stretch where Auburn's talent was that a guy like Coy could come in and be one of the better wide receivers here.
Right.
So, yeah, it's tough. Wide receiver is such an interesting conversation for me. I can't wait to see what this staff is going to do with all these guys. And then game 1 versus Baylor. How much on the road, on national TV? Now, I looked at the game schedule for that night. I think like Colorado guys plays that night and Wake Forest plays that night. It's not a ton of high-profile games. So most eyes should be on Auburn Baylor. But how safe does Hugh Freeze play it in game 1? Do they open up just slinging it around the football field to these wide receivers? Because according to Y2K Sports and Life, The biggest gap between these two teams is coaching.
I mean, there's a lot of people. Well, not a lot of people. There are a fair share of people who believe that Hugh Freeze will ultimately be the downfall of all of this talent because he's not the coach that people have hyped him up to be.
Yeah, I mean, does he possess the ability to evolve this late in his career as a head coach? Right? Where the game is going, what the talent needs, he still knows how to recruit. And trust me, this isn't all money.
No, it's not. I hate the narrative that
it's just money
that is doing this because if you look at the NIL dollars that are being spent at Auburn and compare them to the NIL dollars being spent at other programs around the country, programs that have worse recruiting rankings than Auburn. I mean, excuse me. Worse recruiting rankings than Auburn, but are spending more money than Auburn on their classes and in the transfer portal. Then it's not just now. Money is a factor for sure, but Auburn's not outspending everybody.
Yeah,
they're just not. It's not a factual statement. They don't have the money to outspend everybody.
Right. You know who spent the most this offseason of all the schools out there, reportedly? Texas Tech.
Yeah, I think Texas Tech went crazy.
They went. I mean,
they've been spending a lot of money when it comes to football, like their new facility. They're really leaning into football there.
They have a billionaire donor, Cody somebody, and from what I understand, he went in. And the low end conservative estimates on what they spent is $10 million this offseason in the portal and on NIL. And on the high end, it's north of 25. But they really went hard trying to catch the talent up. And I'm telling you, when I look at where Auburn is at, I think they're doing it the smart way. It's not all about just spending every dollar you can. You need enough money to compete with where the market is for the guys that you want. But you're still evaluating guys the same way. It's just if the market says a guy costs $2 million, then you need $2 million. But they're not going out and saying, we really want this 5-star quarterback, so let's just throw $2 million more at him to get him. They're matching the money and then hoping that all the other things are still good enough to get the athlete here. Yeah. And if the money gets too high to a point that it doesn't make sense, they're not throwing bad money after good, right? They're just saying, look,
they're not going to spend their way out of this. And they've made that very clear because they could have done that last year at the quarterback position. They're like, we're not going to try to accelerate this by trying to throw money at this problem. It needs to be the right fit at the right time. And they just didn't feel like last year was the right time to pull the trigger on a quarterback. And so they repeated it again this season where they said, we're not going to overspend for anybody. Eric Singleton, highly touted guy, came in and he definitely got paid. But that meant that the rest of the class, they weren't going to overspend on. They just weren't.
Yeah.
So, all right. Only one more left here. Our guy, John Allen McGuire at the punter. We thinking start, bench, or redshirt. I threw him in here with the offense, even though he's a specialist, but still. I'm going to say redshirt on John Allen McGuire just because they brought in Hudson Kaak in the offseason, and I think that he is going to be the punter for this year, absent of some sort of injury, and Hudson seems to be a really good punter, so I think that John Allen redshirts this year.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
I'm with you. Look, Kaak is getting some superb reviews. You know what I mean? Awesome. Yeah, I think that he's good enough to get it. I think he's good enough to get it done. And as long as Auburn has Kaak on the roster, I see John. I can't keep it straight.
Just say Hudson, bro.
Yeah,
it's okay.
Yeah, I think that John McGuire has time to develop into the guy that they need him to be. But he had other opportunities. He had other P4 opportunities that he turned down to come to Auburn. And I like John McGuire. I watched him kick. I actually went to a couple of his high school games the last couple of years when Thompson played Opelika. They played in Montgomery one year for some reason. It's kind of like a neutral site high school game just to watch him kick. The talent is there. He'll continue to be better as an athlete and develop. I'm looking forward to seeing what he can do. But yeah, I think this is a red shirt. And he just has to stay ready just in case. I do think he's next off the bench if something happens to Kaak.
Yeah, I know he 100%. I don't even know if there's another punter on the team. I'm not looking at the roster right now, but I think that those are the only 2 punters that Auburn currently has. Yeah, they are. That's it. So if it ain't Hudson, it's going to be John Allen. That's the long and the short of that.
Guys, we are. I can't say too much, but I was at the basketball facility the other day, hanging out with some people there, and I'm because we're talking about kicker. We're so close to this Nike switch, and everybody is so excited.
July 1st, is that the correct date for that?
Yeah, I believe so. Yeah, I think it's at the end of June that the switch is happening. And when I tell you the athletes are excited about being able to kick in Nike shoes versus Under Armour, it's an understatement. They can't wait to get out. Like, I mean, I've had athletes tell me they can't walk in Under Armour cleats. So this will be fun. This will be fun to watch them getting all their Nike gear. They're spending it's a lot. It's money, right? Like, it's a lot of money flowing into these uniforms and the things that they're going to want. But everybody's excited about the Nike switch. So John Allen, I talked to him about his cleats and stuff, and he kicked at a camp one time where he had to kick in some cleats other than the ones that he normally kicks in, and all this stuff affects their performance big time. It does. Not being in gear you're comfortable with, it does affect your performance. So, look, John Allen McGuire, and if you don't know, his brother, Evan McGuire, was a backup kicker at Auburn, for those who don't know. Right. Evan never really got his shot at Auburn. He technically had one more year of eligibility, but decided to move on. And, for John Allen to decide to come here is big for Auburn. I think it's big for Auburn. And for them to hold on to his commitment was huge. So I'm looking forward to seeing what he can do down the stretch. I hope he gets his shot here. I really do.
Hudson's a 1-year guy. I think John Allen's going to be the guy next year.
Yeah. So the way they did it was perfect. You want to give that kid a year to get acclimated and be able to step into that role next year.
We don't. But punter is not one of those sexy positions until you need to flip the field and it gets out there and they're thinking it.
Right. Absolutely.
Right.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So certainly John Allen, I've watched him kick in these pressure type situations in camp. The camp that they did at Auburn that I watched him kick in, it was an interesting kind of elimination type contest. I think he finished 3rd, but guys, it was based on hang time and distance. And every round, you had to kick the ball. You had to have greater hang time and longer distance to make it to the next round. So the first one had to travel 40 yards and have at least 3.5 seconds of hang time or something like that. They kept tacking on half a second. And to see the guys who stepped up when you got to the later rounds where you really had to get the ball in the air, but also push it down the field, to see how many guys shaped it in that position, knowing that they had to get a good kickoff was remarkable. And I watched John Allen McGuire really, really, really perform under these pressure situations. I mean, think about it. All the kids that come to this camp, everybody's watching you. Their parents are there, your fellow kickers are there, and you got to step up and make a good kick right there in that indoor facility. It was really, really fun to watch, actually. So I've enjoyed watching his progression so far, and I think that Auburn made a good evaluation here, bringing him in. The McGuire family also is a great family. They're an Auburn family. They're what you want. They're what you want in your program. parents who are involved, but not in coaches' faces, and they do things the right way. And I think that John Allen's going to do it the right way. So he's an Auburn guy. I can't wait to see him kick here. And to you guys' point, you got Kaak for 1 year, and then you get to move on, right? So
for sure. All right, let's get over here to the comment section before we get out of here. A couple super chats. Mr. Gibson says, do you see, make sure I'm not covering everybody up, my bad. Do you see coaches exploring JUCO more with the new eligibility? Off topic, does Gus redeem himself as an OC? With the new eligibility, do they explore JUCO a little bit more? I would assume the answer to that is going to be yes. Just because I think what you're going to start see is junior college kind of be like farm leagues, right? For guys that are fringe players that, because you have, so there's a lot of things that factor in this to me. The transfer portal, number one, right? So what you're going to see is kind of like a progression of guys who would have been a fringe scholarship offer anyway, end up not getting that scholarly offer and end up having to go either JUCO, Group of 5, FCS, right, whatever, out of high school and getting their experience in college the first year that way. And then that second season, they make the jump in the transfer portal up to a P4 program, right? Like that's what it's going to end up being for those guys. And then you have the academic eligibility stuff that some guys still have to work through. We'll put them in JUCO or some sort of D2 program situation like that, right? And then the other portion of this, I think, is going to be about it not affecting your eligibility for going forward, right? Like you don't have to burn your eligibility as quickly if you go JUCO, right? So if you don't get the offer to the P4 program you want, you might take a year and go to JUCO and it doesn't affect your eligibility at all, as opposed to going to an FCS program where your eligibility ends up being burnt. So that may be the decision that some guys out of high school are making. And so, yes, I do think that they will explore the JUCO ranks a little bit more now because of that, because you had your eye on a guy who was a fringe guy. He went the JUCO route because you didn't have enough scholarships at his position, and then you're going to bring him up the next year.
Yeah, especially for kids who don't immediately qualify out of high school, right? Academically, you don't stop recruiting them. They get academic advisors that they can work with. You go to JUCO level, you make sure that you're taking the right classes, and then you transfer in. But with more eligibility left is a dream for some coaches, right? To get a guy who is more physically ready for the rigors of high-level college football. So, I believe there's some things they can get. Like, I think they can get workout programs and things of that nature where they can get like direct instruction, but they can still get, just take the physical plan and work on their bodies and get in the type of shape that they're going to need to following a plan given to them by the university that they plan on transferring to. So I think this is a good thing for college sports. I know a lot of people are making fun of guys being older in college, but it really does improve the college game to me. Is that you get more mature guys who stay in instead of jumping to the league, and I think more time to play college football and just be a young person figuring out life is better, because it's only just a small percentage of them that are going on to play pro anyway. So for the guys who may bring home championships but never be pro, this is a good thing for college sports. You won't be able to convince me otherwise. The idea that, after a guy turns 22, he shouldn't be play college sports is ridiculous to me, especially if I know I'm not going pro, but I'm still really good at the college level, right? Like,
yeah, especially like now that money is a portion of it, like people are like, go get a job. I do have one. I'm this is my job right now, and I'm making money doing it. So why are you mad at me finding a way to make money with a thing I'm really good at for as long as I can make money do? Like, bro, if you're telling me I can continue doing something I love doing and making money at it, why are you mad at me for doing? I don't understand it. I don't understand it. I'll go get a job. I have one. Would you like to see my paycheck?
The fans making fun of it are just mad that the guy they're making fun of isn't on their team. Right? Like, because once he's on your team, then suddenly there's no problem with it. So I like this for sports. I do. And as far as Gus is concerned, no.
With Florida State going to be Gus Malzahn's redemption story? Mike G says succinctly.
The question is, can Gus adapt? Because that's been Gus's major problem for over the past few years. Is can he adapt and evolve? And yeah, that remains to be seen.
Another super chat here from Exclusive TV says, "What are you eating over there, Mike?" And Turner is going to be a bench guy.
My girlfriend makes these amazing breakfast croissants. Like every Sunday, she makes like 30 of them and puts them in the freezer. So that's what I'm eating. I knew somebody would ask.
Wesley Hilson, did anyone see Luke Deal's contract with the Lions? I did not see the details, but Luke Deal made
3 years.
Congrats
3 years, $3 million.
Yeah.
Average salary of $988,000.
Our guy Luke
Good
Deal.
for Luke, man. There are very few. Luke is a good guy, man.
all around good guy.
Yeah, I mean he caught like 3 passes here, but I love Luke Deal, man. He had a one-handed touchdown catch this past season, I think.
Yes, he did.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it was the Oklahoma game.
Uh-huh.
Let's see here. Ant Robinson says, I think if one is to start, it would be Brody, talking about Broderick Schull on the offensive line. He's a dog and has that Jay Wright attitude. So Jeremiah Wright kind of guy. I love what I saw on a tape from Broderick Schull. I do think that he is that next wave of guys that's going to have an opportunity as a true freshman. We will see what happens with him as far as this season. But yeah, I think you're spot on right there with that one. Marcus Holland, Sam Turner will play some possible bench, borderline redshirt. Let's see. Dan L, how many pass attempts this season? 400, 450.
I think 400. I think they get north of 400 pass attempts this season. That's not unusual for a Freeze quarterback. Generally speaking, but like I said, that goes back to my point about them holding the offense back, feeling like they didn't have the guys to do what they wanted to do. And his guys throw the ball a lot. They run a lot of plays. If it's working this year, I think he gets north of 400. I mean, Peyton Thorne only had 230 something pass attempts. I think his first year, he was around 350. I think last year they got a little bit closer, so they're inching towards what they want to do.
Phil Petway says, I expect all these kids to bench or redshirt, so nobody's going to be a starter from that group. I don't think we put starter for anybody, so I think we all agree with you on that one.
I'm curious to see if someone does end up starting. Like when we do a recap a year from now, who breaks through?
Super interesting. JT Martin says Alvin definitely burned his red shirt because Damari ain't it.
Wow.
Whoa, fan of Damari Alston.
Hot take.
JT, I would like you to know that Damari's grandmama watches this show, and if you ever run into her, good luck, sir.
Good luck.
Listen, bro. Make no mistake about it. And I get it that people talk about us all the time because we have guys who we are fans of and we push a lot. Like, I think Damari Alston is a lot better than people are giving him credit for. I have watched Damari Alston play football, and he is lit. Like, I don't want to oversell him because I don't think he's like a Heisman guy, but he is the most complete running back that I think has been at. Like, the thing he doesn't have that one burst of special, but he's complete, meaning like there's not a thing that he doesn't do well that you need a running back to do. He sees the field well. He blocks well. He can catch the football out of the backfield. He just doesn't have that like next gear or that little like something where he don't have that, but he's solid. And somebody in the comment section one time compared him to Peyton Barber, and I was like, what's wrong with being Peyton Barber?
Right.
Peyton Barber was a 1,000-yard back and had an NFL career. I'll take that as your starting running back at Auburn. With all of these wide receivers, I would take Peyton Barber as my starting running back. Like, that's not a dig. Like, I don't know why you thought that was like a bad thing to say.
They meant it. They meant it as a dig.
Yeah, there's like he's basically Peyton Barber. I'm like,
that's a compliment.
Okay, that's
a compliment.
All right,
I'll take it.
I'm not betting against Damari.
Yeah, again, and no disrespect to anybody else in that running back room. I just think that Damari, again, he has the most complete. I think that Jeremiah Cobb probably has the most special in him of that running back room, where it's like when he gets the ball in his hands, he just might take it to the house because he's got that extra gear. But I think Damari is the most complete guy in that running back room. That doesn't mean I think he's the best. Doesn't mean I think he has the highest ceiling. I just think he does everything well enough that you trust him to be out there in your offense and do that stuff.
Back.
And if he holds on to the football, which is the thing that everybody has, then he's going to get 3 or 4 yards just because he falls forward all the time. He is patient when he gets to the line of scrimmage. I don't know. Again, I'm not trying to overhype Damari. I just think he's a really good running back.
Yeah.
Better than average running back. Alan Brooks says, would you guys like to see them move on from spring ball, wait until June and have something for fans or some other option?
Hugh Freeze made a really good case for why spring ball doesn't really make any sense. And the best explanation I've heard for this is guys who have to have like essentially off-season ending surgeries in January, they're done for the spring. Whereas you could give them 5 to 6 months to recover and be there in June for OTAs and the whole team spends that time getting physically in shape for the season. And I can't tell you, I like that idea a lot better. I do. I will say that. You don't get to miss the spring, and then your guys coming in the summer get to come in and participate with the rest of the team at the same time at OTAs. I think that makes a lot of sense. Now, hopefully we get something during. I mean, it's such a long offseason for college football, man. From January to August is really, really long. Longest offseason of any sport. But I think that the injury surgery explanation makes a lot of sense to me.
Yeah, I agree. I think that with the way that the calendar is shaping up with the transfer portal, it makes more like I understand from the athlete standpoint of having a spring and kind of seeing where you are and then deciding to hit the portal. I just don't think a lot of guys are going to get good opportunities in that second transfer portal window to really do anything because coaches haven't like it's such a short window to evaluate. You saw how almost non-existent spring was this year, like how much actual evaluation was happening this spring with the way that they were putting that stuff together. I think you're since you're trending in that direction anyway, I think you just get rid of the spring and then you have, like you said, the OTAs during June. And then maybe, do the whole thing like you were saying, Mike, that Freeze was talking about with like an actual scrimmage, with another team. Like, I think that makes more sense with the direction that college football is taking. And also it changes your transfer portal window to something that makes more sense for the coaches. I don't think you take away the opportunities for guys to transfer, but just make it where it's easier because right now it's really tough to manage rosters, right? Like it's getting increasingly tougher every year to figure out what your numbers are going to be and all that kind of stuff. Let them make really intelligent decisions about their rosters and allow these young men as well to really vet out situations of where they want to go in the transfer portal. Right now, I think people are making premature transfer portal decisions just because, well, I got to go ahead and jump in there because the portal window's closed. And if I want to get this first window opportunity, and freaking bowl games aren't over yet. Right.
I think, too, what you'll see is if you do move it to the summer, guys will probably go ahead and make that decision to jump in the portal. The guys who are waiting on a spring to kind of see where they stand with the coaching staff. That is something to consider if you're moving it later on in the summertime to do that. If you're getting rid of spring, those guys are going to hit the portal in the fall, in the winter.
Yeah. Last one here. Brad Browning says, have y'all said anything about the new college football playoff seeding format? We have not talked about the CFP seeding format. And maybe we can do a whole other segment on that because I think that there's a lot to discuss on that. So maybe that's something. Mike G, would you want to talk about that on a Auburn Express episode with somebody CFP format? I don't know.
Yeah. Yes. I have some thoughts about this.
Sure.
But yeah, we'll definitely cover that.
All right. Well, we are going to get out of here. Good show today. We'll get back to the I didn't think we were going to go through the whole episode talking just one side of the football. The defensive conversation, I think, is going to be very interesting. So you guys make sure you come back next Sunday because we'll jump back into that conversation about start bench redshirt for our defensive side. But Mike G, tell the people ways that they can support the work we got going on here at the War Report.
You guys know the deal. We're at Media Days here in a couple months. Help support the work we're doing by signing up as a patron member. $5.99 a month will get you there. We appreciate you guys for helping us grow our community. As always, we want to thank our title sponsor, Golden's Cast Iron. Visit goldenscastiron.com/WR. Use code Get Your Weight Up for 15% off your weights and code TWR for $65 off fire pits and Kamado grills. Spring is here. Summer is on the way. You want to be outside with your family, making memories around the grill or just getting in shape. Work out, grill out, chill out with Golden's Cast Iron. Also want to thank our friends at the Rogue Shop. Visit rogueshop.com. Use code REPORTER to get 15% off your Rogue Shop order. Pain, sleep, stress, anxiety, whatever ails you in life, the Rogue Shop has something that has you covered. Guys, we appreciate them for sponsoring this segment. Also, our friends at the Vibe Vault. You can find them at 3462 Crosswinds Road, Sweet Eye in Phoenix City, Alabama. That's on Highway 431, right across the street from Renfro's, from Chattahoochee Valley Community College, next to the Renfro Supermarket and Marco's Pizza. Not just barbers, lifestyle consultants. Please visit them if you're looking to get fresh for the weekend. And check us out on podcast, every single podcast platform. We are there bringing you guys lots of great audio-only content with the Auburn Express, Uptempo, College Loop, and Just a Sec pods. Whether you're on your way to work, dropping the kids off at school, or just headed to the gym, the War Report has you covered with all your favorite Auburn content in your headphones while you're getting those things done. Visit our merch store at thewarreport.com and get your War Report gear today. This is another great way to support our content and the work that we're doing here. Represent on game days with your War Report merch. And once you get it, hit social media, let everybody know that you're representing. Hashtag Get Your Weight Up. We'll be looking for you guys over there as well.
Yes, indeed. Before you all get out of here, make sure that you share the video with somebody at the War Report. Make sure that you like the video and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Let's get those subscription numbers up again. Hitting the thumbs up, subscribing doesn't cost you a thing. It's one click on each of those things to make it happen. So please go ahead and do that. Make sure you follow us at the War Report on X and Instagram. TW Report is where we are on TikTok. We'll be back at you with more great content coming up this week. Auburn Express all week, midweek report coming up. And I got film for my Green Name gang. Y'all tap in. Until the next time. And as always, War Eagle.
War Eagle.